Greetings from cold, snowy Vermont. My name is Gina Tron. I'm an alien Buddha poet, and I'm excited that I'll be reading to you some passages from the Alien Buddha's Best of 2024 anthology. It was a little challenging to narrow it down to just a few pieces in here because there were so many great poems and excerpts, but I hope you will like what I did choose. The first poem is called Danny by K. Phil. I was in 10th grade before I knew what bisexuality was. I knew about gays and lesbians from whispers on the playground, from punchlines on TV and angry voices at church, from parades seen from a highway overpass. The topic was never discussed within my home, not even when both my uncles came out. Instead, I never saw them again. But in 10th grade, in the cafeteria before first bell, a girl named Danny proudly announced that she was bisexual, that she was attracted to both girls and boys. And quietly, briefly, the word caught in my brain, a circuit flickering. Sometimes I got hot in the face around certain girls, and sometimes my stomach flipped over itself if we were alone. But I'd liked boys since I was 6, so I knew this was just faulty wiring somewhere, a funny little quirk. A peculiarity that hurt no one, wasn't even worth mentioning, would have no effect on my life. But Danny had put a name to it, a name that meant sinner, sexual deviant, the shadowy figure in the tracks. My mom handed out at Halloween. If I felt the way that Danny felt, which I definitely didn't, then I was bisexual too, a sinner, a pervert, and I hated Danny for making me out to be those things with her casual confidence. She radiated peace, and bitterness bubbled within me. We weren't the same, not anything alike. She was confident in her righteousness of herself, indifferent to a world that disagreed. And I was straight. I was straight. So I could feel no grateful camaraderie with Danny, no relief or understanding. I could only resent her. The golden words that flowed from her mouth wove a molten cage around me. The rays of sun that warmed her glowing face blackened me with dread. This is called Boy by E.D. Watson from the Ceasefire Now online poetry series. Boy from Beit Lahia, lost on the road, to an airdrop he never found. Or there was nothing left when he arrived. The latest episode of reality entertainment. A war I can't stop watching. I watch because I paid for it. I cannot look away. I don't know where I am, he says, and he will not face the camera, answering curtly as if to say, why are you asking stupid questions? He walked for 12 kilometers and will return empty-handed if he can find his way. 12 years old and hardened, he doesn't cry. Just dust in his hair turns it gray. I don't know how to get back, he says, and child, neither do I. This is called Alien Exodus by Sean Lynch. Get a little iced coffee on this cold day. As a child, I'd stand in a field of yellow uniform, plucking dandelions from the grass to smush petals between my fingers and stain my skin to be the same color as the shirt I wore. I'd even sit down since left field and t-ball is as abandoned as an asteroid. Mom said, be careful. Bees like yellow and might mistake you for a plant to pollinate. Sure enough, I picked a flower and an angry alien popped out of the stamen, striking my knuckle with its stinger. My hand turned red and swelled, so I formed a grudge against extraterrestrials, swearing to stomp them out from Earth. Little did I know, bees would become exhausted with humans and decide to flee our planet in small spaceships they've buried underground. The last bee I saw was years later, the week my mother died. It drifted along to find the final spacecraft somewhere on the cemetery's outskirts to escape from our endangered world. My Soul is Not Capital by Gonzalo F. Mendez. The greatest manifestation of capitalism is the erosion of the human spirit. It breeds anti-empathy and reduces us to our component elements. My solidarity is dismissed as naive, but I am free to think and wield my will with the same unchecked power at those at the altar of the corrupt. One of Those Days by Don Colclazier. I am not very strong today. It's another one of those days, I guess. Days when everything that I plan to do are now on the back burner. Maybe I will get to them tomorrow. Maybe I can catch up on them later. Later, when I have more strength and less pain to deal with. To mullet or not to mullet? An aside by Benjamin Drevlo. To call Patrick Swayze's man-mane a mullet is to spit chewing tobacco on the tombstone of the hollowed grave of Patrick Swayze's immortal man-mane. If a mullet is all business in the front and party in the back, then Patrick Swayze's man-mane was all business, all party, everywhere, all the time. Patrick Swayze's man-mane, it's quite the mouthful, is never not dirty dancing, even when it's teaching ballet, even wrangling Arabian horses, even when it's fighting cancer to the bitter end. Some say that Patrick Swayze uses South American tree sap, to get it like that. Some say he used a small dose of plutonium. But no one will ever truly know what made Swayze's man-mane so Swayze. Because there will never be a man or mane like Patrick Swayze again. The closest Swayze's man-mane ever got to a mullet was in reverse. His turn as a serious dramatic actor in the 1990s supernatural thriller/romantic comedy Ghost, where a new decade comes with a trim in the back and letting the bangs fly free. And the rest of the 90s were all the better for it. In a movie where Demi Moore chopping her long black hair to a boy cut should have stolen the scenes, the real hair connoisseurs can't stop gaping at Swayze's feathered bangs blowing in the ghost wind. In Point Break, his curly blonde locks are more akin to a sun-bleached old English sheepdog marooned on a lost island off the coast of Antigua than some tawdry, beach blonde mullet of the lowest of grommets. There are over 1,000 TikTok videos dedicated to achieving the Patrick Swayze mullet. There is an entire Facebook group called the Official Patrick Swayze Tribute Mullet with 3.2 thousand followers. 3.2 thousand Swayze fans can in fact be wrong. Patrick Swayze is no Brian Bosworth. Patrick Swayze would never deign to shave steps into the sides of his luxurious side hair. Tom Cruise would kill to have Patrick Swayze's man-mane. And he literally tried to, in a little-known movie called The Outsiders. Kurt Russell's hair is to Patrick Swayze's man-mane as drag Cher is to Cher is to 1970s Cher of Sonny and Cher. Which is to say, beautiful and sassy and bold, but in the end, still just a semi-flattering homage to the ultimate queen, not the queen herself. In To Wong Fu, Thanks for Everything, Julie Newmar, they had to hide Patrick Swayze's man-mane under a red wig because people would have never believed he was a man playing a woman with hair that would make the most beautiful drag queen in the world beg have mercy. When Patrick Swayze calls herself Vita Boheme, contrary to most translation guides, it does not mean an artistic life. It does not mean a bohemian life. It means Vidal Sassoon, eat my beautifully sculpted, perfectly hairless ass. Calling Patrick Swayze's man-mane a mullet does a disservice to those feathery bangs that have no shame. The way they frame his sky blue eyes, the way he's always running his hand through them to find his way, to show he too sometimes gets in his own hairy way. Calling Swayze's man-mane a mullet does a disservice to man-perms everywhere. Calling Swayze's hair a mullet is toxic masculinity trying to rationalize its feminine mystique and homoerotic self-love. Patrick Swayze rocked the flow before flowing was a thing. Patrick Swayze invented hockey hair without ever lacing up a pair of ice skates, though he did elevate roller skate dancing to a ballet-like art form in the 1979 movie Skate Town, USA. In a 1988 debate, vice presidential candidate Dan Quayle said that many people had likened him to a young John F. Kennedy, and his 80-year-old opponent responded, "Senator, I served with Jack Kennedy. I knew Jack Kennedy. Jack Kennedy was a friend of mine. Senator, you are no Jack Kennedy." I did not know Patrick Swayze, and I have never met anyone with the last name Mullet, nor have I ever met Mike D, lead MC of the Beastie Boys, who is credited as coming up with the term mullet in the first place. But I have worn a mullet, and I was raised by a mullet-rocking family with the village of mullet rockers it took to raise me. And you, sir, Mr. Bubba over there with the buzz sides and bald spot on top, you are no Patrick Swayze, and Patrick Swayze's feathery, flowing man mane is no mullet. Patrick Swayze's feathery, flowing man mane is peace on earth and goodwill to all men. Patrick Swayze's mane is the cure for cancer, even if the rest of Patrick Swayze is to make the ultimate sacrifice. In the 70s, 80s, 90s, and early 2000s, Patrick Swayze's man mane was enough to make the most homophobic redneck mouth breather question his repressed homosexuality, if only for a fantasy of one day running his dirty, grubby, stubby fingers through each magical strand and feel heaven for once before his homophobic God condemns him to a homophobic eternity of hell for homophobic rednecks, mouth breathers who think homosexuals are going to hell. Patrick Swayze's man mane is undefeated, is immaculate, is time immemorial, is Jesus' love, the original man made from God incarnate. As demonstrated at the end of the movie Ghost, Patrick Swayze's man mane is literally a gift to God. Patrick Swayze's man mane is a monument to what men can actually accomplish when they put their dick and clippers away and get frilly and funky and attuned to their feminine side. Patrick Swayze's man mane is not never or forever, just is. It's the Swayze, and what it is not is a goddamn dirty mullet. That was quite the tribute to Patrick Swayze. Microplastics by Zachary Ross Wiggs. They're in my bones, my blood, my brain. I can feel the grit on my teeth, the squeak when I eat. They whisper languages of dinosaurs, boiled down and simple. And when my body decays, a sculpture will remain. Deserving 80 by Marian Deutz Cohen. I deserve to turn 80, and I deserve this upcoming milestone party. All my life I've done so much, beginning when I was a baby. I labored with my mother for 32 hours. I banged my head against the crib after my father was drafted into World War II. My first childhood memory takes place in my crib. That memory might be the source of my poems, maybe even my math. I held on to that memory until I could write. Now it's in 3 poems and 1 story. It was about my first consciousness. Was I unconscious before then? Whatever, I wrote my main poem when I was a baby. Yes, I've done a lot in my almost 80 years. I mean a lot after I was a baby. And besides math PhD, 33 books, the math and lit course I developed, 5 children, 4 of them living. Yes, a lot more than what's in my author bio and CV. I overcame stuttering, 7th grade, slightly sadistic father, heart-conditioned mother, parents who raised me on grandeur, and feeling, as Anais Nin put it when she was 11, quote, different from everybody. I overcame being known in high school as math brain, and not as someone to ask out on a date. I survived spousal chronic illness and the death of one of my newborns. I survived chronic unemployment. I also rejoiced a lot, and sometimes I say there are suspiciously many interesting things about me. I've had to process them all. I strongly believe I deserve 80. I know there are those who deserve 80 and don't get it, but it looks like I'm going to. Yippee. Hooray. Thank you very much.